Welcome back.
Hey everyone, welcome back to season 2
Episode 1.
of Living with the Kays.
I feel like season 1 was more about just getting to know us.
Definitely.
And now we can really dig in and go deep.
Yeah.
Did you get some feedback?
We did get some feedback. We wanted to know what the people want to hear from us. So this season is really going to be focused on what you all want to hear.
I just want to say shout out to folks who have been following our shorts, our humorous and entertaining content.
Yeah.
Over 500,000 views in a year, and I just think it's validation that there's a want and a desire out there for a little bit more entertainment and fun with your significant others.
We appreciate being able to bring you guys some joy, and we enjoy it too.
Yeah, it's definitely fun for us. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you all that it's not hard though.
Yeah.
I mean, even just getting season 2 on the calendar so we can start filming for it wasn't easy.
Yeah.
Both juggling full-time jobs
And a baby.
Yeah. And getting sometimes some mixed feedback with people saying like, maybe you shouldn't do this, maybe you should do it.
You should stick to your day job.
Yeah, I think this is off brand or off track for you. And listen, we welcome all the feedback. It's great. We love to hear it. I think deep down, 1, we enjoy it, but 2, when we started doing these, it was really about creating more empowered couples. And so I really just want to take a second to refresh our memory about what it is that an empowered couple is and really why we started it. And for us, an empowered couple is a power couple committed to their relationship, creating resilient families, vibrant communities, and using their teamwork to make the world a better place. And just for me takes on a whole new meaning now with our baby girl, Karia.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you tell them about today's topic?
Of course. So the topic today is balancing interracial and intercultural differences in relationships. So we talked about this a little bit last season, but I think now we're just gonna dive a bit deeper and just explain to you all why we feel that it's important. So I'd say that this is important because you really are gonna come across some challenges.
Like what?
We'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, there's definitely challenges. I think it's important for you to be on the same page, there's like a mutual understanding of like, this is my background, this is your background. And once you have that trust and understanding, you can go a lot deeper and just be there to support each other when the challenges arise, because they're gonna arise.
And when you're talking about intercultural and interracial, really what we're talking about is what happens when your whole family's involved, And so I think it adds a whole new level of like flavor to it. And maybe this is unique to the United States, which is a melting pot. But even for years, it was something that was taboo. But I pulled up some data. It said the number of interracial or interethnic couples has been increasing since 1967, when it was only 3% of newlyweds. Now it's about 20%. So 1 in 5 couples are interracial or in intercultural marriages, and that's as of 2019. So
is that global?
That's here in the United States. So I'd say, that was 4 years ago, and things are moving quickly. So it's probably more likely than not that folks will be in an intercultural, interracial marriage soon. I mean, the things that are driving it, things like globalization, transportation getting faster. I mean, how easy is it now to get on a flight and be in another country?
Yeah, it's so easy. So actually, fun fact, we were discussing this. So we did 23andMe, I don't know, like a few years ago.
Yeah.
And my results were all over the place. It was like 14% British and Irish, like 12% Chinese, then you had like sub-Saharan Africa. It was like all over the place. And Kareem's, I don't know if you guys can guess it, but it was like 99.9% North African.
Yeah, when I did that test, I actually found out that like 4 to 6 generations ago, I had a little bit of like Ashkenazi Jew in me, but that was small. Like I was pretty like purebred.
Yeah, which was crazy because...
And yes, we gave the government our data, so completely up to you all if you decide you want to do something like that. But yeah, it was unreal to see just a stark difference.
Yeah.
Same age, same peer group. Kadesia's family is probably 2nd generation now here in the United States. Mine was 1st generation, but just such a big jump in a given generation.
And then it made me think about it differently, because now we have a baby, so it's like the mix, the blend that she is now coming into this world, and then like what she's gonna create, it's just like, I can't. But yeah, so
she'll still have a dominant like composition, you know, at least 40% of it will be North African.
But it just shows you like the different backgrounds that have to get mixed when you're creating new relationships and new lives together.
Were there any dicey moments for you?
In terms of what?
Just when we started to mix.
Yeah, I mean, I think I needed to learn a lot about Egyptian culture, Muslim culture. A lot of it is blended. Like, we went to Egypt, and so much of like the village that Kareem's family grew up in, it's not even like, it's like culturally Egyptian, but like also the Muslim influence is very strong. So like you'll do things and it may not actually, you may not even know it's religious because it's all intertwined, you know? So I think that was a lot that I needed to learn.
Yeah, identity is fascinating and complicated.
Yeah.
But we here now, like growing up in the United States, there's a culture of being American.
Yeah.
And so we started to recognize that there's a culture of being Egyptian, there's a culture that comes with being Muslim, there's a culture that comes with being a Muslim Egyptian.
Yeah.
There's a culture on your side, and then how do those cultures evolve when you get here to the United States?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I'm someone who identifies as culturally Muslim, but I don't practice Islam in the same exact way that most Muslims do today.
Yeah.
And so that adds a whole other layer to it. But I remember Kadesia, when we first met, she said, oh yeah, I had one friend and his name was Kareem, and he was Moroccan. And that was her connection to me back then. And you don't run across, I guess, a lot of Egyptians if you don't know they're outwardly saying they're Egyptian, but I'm sure there were more than one in her life before that.
Yeah, that's true. Just never thought about it, you know? I felt like what I was surrounded by was very different. And then we started dating and I was like, oh my God, like in Astoria, there's a whole little Egypt area. And it's like, wow, you had no idea this existed. So it was nice. I feel like there was a lot of commonalities that we had. And it was nice to see that even though we're on completely different sides of the earth in terms of where our families come from, there's just so much that's similar. So. And
there's definitely a lot of stereotypes, some for better or for worse.
Yeah.
I won't share any names of folks who are involved in this, but I remember one of her family members just calling me Muhammad because they thought I was Egyptian. And I think one of the warnings that Kadesia received from a family member before we got married was just make sure he's not going to have another wife.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, it could come across as being insensitive, and it is like in those situations, but I think when you're in an intercultural and an interfaith sort of marriage and you're wanting to make it work, I think there's also being a little bit empathetic to the fact that there's not a lot of knowledge out there. Not everyone knows. They're not getting the exposure. We tend to live in little bubbles, and so
yeah,
it's easy to just make those generalizations.
Yeah, but there's some truth to it too.
Is there?
How many wives did your dad have?
He had 2, but it wasn't 4. So.
Yeah, so there was some truth in it. That's all we're saying. But it's true. I think the second that you're able to like hone that knowledge for your partner and yourself, then you can have those tough conversations with those family members. And I know I experienced some too with certain family members of Kareem's, and they were tough, and there was like a lot of crying on both sides, but
put me out there like that.
I was doing most of the crying.
Thank you.
But yeah, they're important conversations. So it's how do you get in front of it, and how do you address it as a couple when the time comes?
Do you have some tips for folks?
Yeah. So I think embrace open communication. Over communicate. I think the more that you know about your partner and their experience and their trauma, the more that you can be supportive when those tough conversations come
Yeah,
up.
and I think there's difference there too. Like you're coming in with your own lived experience, they're coming in with a different lived experience. And if you don't take the time to understand what that lived experience is, you're gonna create a lot of opportunity for disconnect. So
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah. I'd say another tip is celebrate your differences. So we talk about American culture, Egyptian culture, Jamaican culture, not really, but Oh yeah, we can get into that. My family, we're on a whole nother level. But we decided that with Karia, we want to celebrate everything. So
I love holidays.
yeah. And it's like, you know, we want her to experience a little bit of everything. So you have Christmas, you can have Eid, Ramadan, like.
Ramadan is tough. I don't know that she's going to want to fast for 30 days.
Yeah, but I'm sure she's going to want the presents at the end.
She will want the presents.
So it's how do we figure out how to incorporate all of those things so she's still getting a taste of the culture without having to have the not so fun stuff.
Is you 2?
Yeah.
All right, I got 3 for you all. So the first one I wrote out was make sure the love is strong, and that is the core foundation because it makes it more likely that you'll get through it. So in those moments when it was difficult or you feel like you're being stereotyped or discriminated against, if you get to that level, just one, like remember why you're doing it and why you're there. And I think it's the love at the end of the day between you and your partner, your significant other, your empowered partner is really why you're there. And I think if you're able to start there, you'll be able to push through anything. So when things go awry, like circle back and say, okay, let's remember why we're both here. It's because we love each other.
Yeah. Discriminated against, does something come to mind?
You know, being called Muhammad when your name is Kareem isn't.
Wow.
Doesn't feel great.
I thought you were going another direction.
No, I'm just saying, like, you know, it's stereotypical.
Yeah.
It can feel that way. And just, you know, remember why you're there at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Educate was my second one. Educate when people are open and then laugh when they're not.
Yeah.
So I think not everyone is going to want to be educated. And I think it sucks to say that, but it's the truth. Some folks are so set in their ways, and I'm not even going to make it an age thing because it's not.
Yeah.
I've met folks who are a lot older who are open and willing and curious, and I've met folks who are younger who are just like, they're not ready for it, they're not about it, they don't care, they're happy in their silo, and in those moments, you know, it's better to laugh than to cry, so just laugh it off.
Yeah, but sometimes you gotta cry it out first.
Okay, well, educate when possible, laugh is mine. You know, if you want to give them another tip and say cry it out, go for it. And then the third one I would say is just expect some ignorance, but don't be afraid of it. So I think a lot of times you won't know that they're open to being educated because they're embarrassed. They might think it's something that they should know when they didn't, or they didn't have the exposure, or maybe someone told them something that was inaccurate and they heard you say something to someone else that made them feel insecure about it. So just expect that there's a level of ignorance there and don't be afraid of it. So I think it's really an opportunity and an invitation. Knowing number 3, just go back to number 2 again. If they're open, educate. If they're not, I say laugh it off.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We had a situation where we had to try and laugh it off.
Which one?
So it was the one where you had a family member and their first comment was, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that she didn't come out Kadesi's skin color.
Yeah, that didn't feel good after Karia was born.
Yeah, that was like the first comment right after we gave birth to Karia. I gave birth to Karia.
Yeah, that one sucked, to be honest, and it really hurt. And I think there's still a societal conception that the lighter your skin tone or skin complexion, the better off you are. And so instead of just being enthusiastic and excited, they were excited about what I feel like is the wrong thing. And in their mind, they thought it was the right reason, but yeah, definitely not.
Yeah. So that was the example where I had to cry it off before we could laugh it off. But
yeah, well, we struggle with that family member all around though. So.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for folks?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah.
All right, so I'll leave you all just when you're out there, you're dating, you're in a committed relationship, or you're already in an empowered relationship. The ones that came to mind for me, for you all to discuss were, number 1 is, do you want to know when a family member says something offensive or excluding?
That's good.
I think that's an important one. Just, hey, are we on the same page? Do you want to know when these things come up? Because sometimes things won't be said to you or in front of you.
Yeah.
They'll kind of be said behind your back or just in a separate conversation or in
another
language.
Right in front of your face.
Yeah, so, are you someone who wants to know, or are you someone who prefers not to know?
I'm like, tell me.
Yeah,
about to get my translator out,
Yeah, and then, so make sure you're on the same page there. And if you don't know, you can try one way, and if it doesn't feel good, try the other, and then ultimately figure out where you want to stand. But I think that's a good conversation to have as a couple. I know, my wife wants to know. I prefer to know. We can always work through it, but it's not the case for everyone. The second one I would say for you all to kind of think about is, will we confront family members when they make one of us feel uncomfortable? So some battles are not worth fighting. Some relationships are just never going to go to that next level. Obviously, you'll never get the relationship to really where you want it to be with any family member or friend if you're not willing to have those difficult conversations. But it's an investment, in time and in emotional energy. And so does it make sense? Do we want to do it? Is it going to be something that we want to have on a case-by-case basis, depending on who the family member is, or is it something that we're just going to stay away from? You don't want to risk doing something that you think your partner wants you to do, but they don't. And then
goes back to the open communication.
And then you can alienate an entire portion of your family or hurt another relationship. And we always have to be mindful of that. Who do we want involved in Karya's life? Cousins, uncles, grandparents, etc. And so it's something you need to be sensitive to, especially when family members are saying things that are ignorant, offensive, or hurtful, even when they're not doing it on purpose. And I think in this particular case, we were talking about that person who said the thing about the skin complexion, and they just naturally make ignorant comments all the time. And so it's not out of a place of I'm trying to hurt this person by saying that. They're just naturally oblivious. So those are my tips and the questions for you all to reflect on. I think that's a wrap, right? Season 2, episode 1 in the books. Continue to share your feedback, and share this with a friend. We're excited to be on this journey with you all.
Bye.